Hello and welcome to another episode of Fantasy Reality. And this episode, I'm going to talk about Mooks and Red Shirts. These are the guys who fill the armies of the villain and the hero. For the most part, Mooks are generally on the side of the villain, Red Shirts on the side of the hero. But basically, they're the same thing. For the most part, you don't know their names, you don't know their histories, you don't really know anything about them. In fact, their sole purpose seems to be to exist only to be killed by people on the other side. But would it really be like that? Unlikely. Because given that both sides are essentially forces of the military, representing the common soldier, as it were, it probably wouldn't be like that. No. I mean, I suppose that if the leader was foolish and just sent their army to take over someplace, yeah, I can see a lot of soldiers on potentially both sides dying. So, yeah. But most competent commanders aren't going to send their guys to all be killed. Reason is, you run into a lot of problems, because least of which is you lose those guys that died. Unless you're the undead, and well, that's a different kettle of fish altogether. But each soldier, Mook or Red Shirt, they're a person. And if they get killed, you lose the ability to command their services because they're dead. So, if things are to be applied to a certain amount of reality, your average villain, evil overlord, I mean, if he sees a place that's easy to take over, with minimal amount of casualties on his side, he might take it over. But if it looks like it's not going to be a good fight, that he's going to lose a lot of soldiers, then he's probably not going to attack this other place. Especially if it turns out that this other nation, which might seem weak, actually has about a dozen allied nations, that each of which can field a formidable army. Our villain, he's going to think, no, bad idea. And thus, your soldier, his soldiers, they're going to be fine. You know, they're not going to get killed because they didn't go to war, which is a good thing. And because, like I said, if you're smart, you plan the war first, and you have to think, if I attack this guy, what's the likelihood of these guys over here going to attack me? And if that likelihood is 100%, and it turns out that the war would not be good for your side, if you're smart, you say, no, call it off, Don't bother. We're not going to attack. Now, if he's smart, if he wants to make it look like he's going to go to war, yeah, he might, station a bunch of troops along the border, have them wave weapons, gun, intimidate the other guy. Sure, that's a viable tactic. Because it forces them to move their soldiers a bit, and it's like, and the other guy's like, is he actually going to go through with it? Or is this just some bluff? And because let's face it, there's a lot of military commanders throughout history who have basically said, "Oh, we could easily win," but do they actually go to war? Well, they're smart enough to realize that if they attack, they might actually lose the long run. And then there's, of course, those who have indeed attacked, only found out, bad idea. Even today, there's at least a few nations who don't like the U.S., and they'll say, "We hate the United States of America. We will defeat you in a war." But they do nothing. Because they're smart enough to realize, if we attack these guys, they will bring their entire force to bear, and then they'll also call in their allies, who bring their entire forces to bear, and we get squashed. And on the other hand, let's suppose a nation does get attacked. They might be able to call upon their allies and say, "Hey, we need help." And if it turns out their ally is a really big, powerful nation, it's like, "You called? Who is the enemy?" "Oh, these guys." "Oh. Yes. Oh. Did you realize that we are now at war with these guys? They outnumber us 100 to 1, and their weapons are superior to ours in every way." Uh-oh. I didn't know that they'd show up that quickly. And of course, also, if you are the aggressor, you might have a couple of big allies, but they might realize, wait a minute, did they just attack? Yes, he did just attack. But aren't those guys allied with? Yes, they are allied with those guys. Oh boy, we don't want to get in a fight with those guys. We already had a staring match with them, and we were the ones that blinked. So, let's just try to settle this one. Let's try to negotiate things. That's a good idea. Good idea. Negotiate. Tell him to just convince this guy to say that he's extremely sorry, and maybe he won't suffer too much. Yeah, let's hope he's smart enough to apologize. Well, oversimplified, but that could happen, where a certain nation thinks, "Oh, I can summon these two guys to help me out," only to find out that those two guys decided, we don't want to get involved, and it could also be a case of, we don't even like you, so why in the world did you decide to get in a fight with these guys, and know that it would drag those guys into the fight? So, pretty much, so basically what these Mooks and red shirts would actually be doing is, well, they wouldn't be doing much. In reality, yeah, you might see some guys, patrolling the border, see the other guys patrolling the border, and for all you know, they just might find it, they might end up going to the same establishments, off when they're off duty, of course. Yeah, visiting, visiting the inn, visiting inns. Well, it wouldn't be too much of a surprise if the guys on the other side, if the guys on one side see the guys on the other side, and since they're off duty, they realize, okay, these guys are basically the same as us, just dragged off into a war that they don't really want to be part of, and we all have commanders who are just not. And this does indeed happen throughout history. There are indeed cases where you have soldiers from opposing sides who go to the same establishment, the same tourist destination, see the guys from the other side, wave, hello, and nothing happens. Or, they might even, if they're, say, at the local tavern, they might buy the other guys a drink. It's like, you need all the courage you need. Oh, how about we buy a drink for you guys? That does happen. It's crazy, but it does happen. And there's like all kinds of stories where it turns out the guys from opposite sides find out, you mean you're sleeping in this house too? Yeah, we didn't know you was here. We didn't know you was here either. And basically it's like, how about a truce, and in the morning we'll leave, head back to our bases, and then we'll fight. That does happen. Because, it's like late at night, people just want to sleep, and it's like, look, did you realize? I just noticed. Let's wait till morning. Oh, that's a good idea. Wait until morning. Leave outside opposite doors. Because that does happen. And there's even been cases where, well, I wouldn't be too surprised if there's a case where there's a sickness among the forces of this one camp, and it's like they send a guy over to the other side, they wave the white flag. It's like, listen, you got a doctor who can treat this sort of condition? Some of our guys are down with it. And, they might, the medics, they might, go over to those guys, treat them. And then they'd be allowed to go back to their rightful side. Because that does happen. Crazy as it sounds, this sort of thing does happen. Because, like I said, the important thing is, the guys on both sides, they're going to be people. They're going to have the same sorts of hopes and dreams, the same sorts of fears and worries. They're going to be concerned about their parents. They're going to be concerned about their wives or girlfriends or husbands and boyfriends if they're a woman. They're going to be concerned about their kids if they have kids. They might be concerned about their siblings back at home, or maybe they're serving on another section of the front. They're going to have the same sorts of concerns and the same sorts of hopes. And it actually takes a certain amount of ability to actually go to war, to the point that soldiers, I won't say that they're reluctant to go to war, but they need to have a real good reason to go fight. But once you give them a good enough reason, oh boy, then you can expect some real damage. I mean, but overall, for the most part, being in the military would actually be a pretty... I wouldn't call it the safest job, because everyone knows what happens in a war that people do. They get killed. You know, it's horrible. But for the most part, it might actually be a pretty safe job. Because for the most part, our military forces, yes, their job is to protect their country in the case of war. At least we'd like to believe that is the case, and of course there are always going to be those exceptions. But for the most part, the kind of war a soldier would prefer to fight would be the kind. Well, it kind of all depends, really. But for the most part, last thing a villain would want to do is, or any military commander for that matter, is attack somebody on their home ground. Reason is, you attack somebody on their home ground, they're going to know every nook and cranny. And so, or at least know somebody who does know the area, the local nooks and crannies. And also, if the other guy is forced to fight a defensive war, it'll be much easier for them to call upon the local citizenry to take up arms against the attacking forces. Because it takes a certain amount of ability to wage a war against some other guys on their home ground. But if you believe that you're protecting your home, you're not going to give ground too easily. And that's where a lot of stalemates and wars occur, where it's like, these guys are, where it's like, I mean, you look through, like, the American Civil War, there's a reason why when the Union forces attacked the Confederate forces, there was a lot of casualties on the Union side, because the Confederates, as far as the Confederates were concerned, they were protecting their home turf. They were protecting their ground. They were protecting their homes. And that will motivate anyone to be incredibly stubborn and just dig in. And there was a saying that it would take 3 Union soldiers to dislodge 1 Confederate soldier. Because that's how tenacious these guys fought. Because it might take a certain greater level of courage to actually attack somebody. Or a greater level of strength, bravery, just to get these guys to attack. And you gotta motivate your guys to attack. Getting you guys to defend, much easier. The wives and the kids are over here, guys. We need to protect them. Okay. And if you're fighting to protect your homes, you gotta fight a lot harder than you would and you're not gonna just retreat that easily. That being said, in case of when it comes to attacking forces, if they're led by a smart guy, the moment that the battle is starting to turn against them, what they might do is order a withdrawal or a retreat, for that matter, because soldiers, if they're gaining ground, okay, they'll just keep going. In the face of potentially horrible casualties, if they're gaining ground, they might be willing to continue the fight. But the moment that when they're not gaining ground and people still keep dying, then it might be a good idea to withdraw. Because obviously that area, not a good idea, not a good attacking area. So, what some commanders might do is like, okay, I'm losing too many men, withdraw. And that is actually an important strategy, tactic that any commander should know. That when the amount of ground gained is not worth the amount of men being killed, it is time to draw back, to withdraw, to hold back, hold off, retreat, to get out of that area of conflict. You do it. And of course, it's not. And of course, afterwards, it wouldn't be too implausible that, like, listen, can you give us a while? We need to treat our wounded. Collect the wounded, collect the dead, the dying. Treat them if possible. Give them a decent burial if need be. But because a smart commander realizes that if he's losing too many men, time to pull back. Time to rethink the plan. A stupid commander, on the other hand, will just waste the lives of their men for no reason. They're the guys that are like, we have reserves, keep sending them forward. Now, I'm not saying because just wasting your men for no reason is just stupid. I mean, if there's a good enough purpose, and even the average person could see, the average soldier could see, yes, Jim died, but we were able to take the city. I mean, yes, they saw a bunch of their friends die, but if they won the fight, and it wasn't. I mean, of course, you kind of have to be careful about that one. That if you're fighting a war with somebody, you gotta consider every little factor. How easy is it to replace men? How easy, the difficulties in training them and moving them to the front, and a whole bunch of other things. If it turns out that transporting your men to the front is going to be incredibly difficult, retreat actually becomes a whole lot more of a viable option. And that you withdraw your men to friendly forces as much as possible. Because when you're in a fight, you want to have numerical superiority. You want to have as many people around you who are your allies when a fight is about to occur. Because, let's face it, you want to attack, would you yourself want to attack a group of 5 people? No. But if you used to say, get your brothers, you might have, and maybe a couple of your friends, and now maybe you got 6, or better yet, 8, and say those 5 guys came after you, only to find out that, they got a few extra guys. They might decide, okay, bad idea, let's not fight them. One could kind of look at the end of the Three Musketeers movie as a good reason for that, where our hero, D'Antagino, he was in a dispute with this guy over the guy's sister, and basically, towards the end of the film, the guy, he shows up with his brothers. It's like, oh, my sister's out of the other. And of course, it's like, okay, I gotta go face this guy. And the other guy, the other musketeers are like, hold it. We look out for each other. And of course, the three musketeers, they come with D'Antagio and and of course these brothers, they take a look and go, okay, time to run. Especially when they see the fact that every other musketeer is after them. It's quite funny. But still, as it is in many medieval wars, the prelude to a battle there was a whole lot of jockeying for position. It was like, okay, where depending on the ground, it's like, is this ground favorable? This guy over here goes, is this ground favorable to me? No, not good. And you might retreat to a different ground. Like, maybe you'll retreat to a hill. It's like, take a look around. Look to the left, look to the right. And he says, yep, good. The other guy might take a look. I'm going to move over here. And basically, there's going to be, the different forces, they're going to figure out, okay, how do I counter his position? Before eventually it's like, okay, we have found the spot that I think provides us an advantage. I think we found the spot that provides us an advantage. And this is all before they even go to blows, because they're trying to find a spot that is going to be that's going to help reduce as many casualties as possible. You know, we want as few casualties as possible, but destroy as many of them as we can. And the other guy, he's thinking the same thing. Okay, this spot should help protect my men and cause them to lose a lot of men. But even before the battle, you might have some people, they might send out emissaries, they have a little chat, a little bit of a chat, and depending on the situation, they might say, okay, let's just withdraw. Okay, we'll withdraw. And that does indeed happen. Where turns out that the advantage is no good for either side, that they just said, well, let's just leave. That just happened. And then you get those guys that get all in a fight, and sometimes you get horrible casualties. Of course, then there's the times we got you, oh, no, we got you. And of course, then you get those tussle wars, and yeah. But for the average soldier, for the average mook in red shirt, they might actually, you know, providing that they have adequate armor and all that sort of stuff, well, it might actually, being in the military, might actually be a pretty stable job, pretty safe. And for all we know, they might never even see a battle. You know, they might stare at the other guy, but at the end of the day, they find out that they go to the same establishments. Yeah, where it's like, how you guys doing? We're doing fine. How are you? Oh, we're doing good. By the way, you got a pimple on your nose. Oh, thanks. How'd you notice? We can see that through the binoculars. Yeesh, your binoculars are that good? Yep. Oh. I'll keep that in mind. You know, like I said, I mean, conflict in a fantasy world probably wouldn't happen as often as is depicted in books and movies. and that basically things will be pretty stable. And because, let's face it, if the other guy ain't going to fight you, there's no point in you fighting us. Well, that's it for this episode of Fantasy Reality. See you in the next episode.